You are listening to the Atlanta Real Estate Forum radio show, all about real estate edition, shining a light on the movers and shakers in the real estate industry, the home builders, developers, realtors, and suppliers making it all happen.
Good morning and welcome back to Atlanta Real Estate Forum Radio. I am your host, Carol Morgan, and I'd like to recognize our show sponsor, Denim Marketing. At Denim Marketing, we try to make your marketing a comfortable fit. So give us a call if you need original content for public relations, social media, marketing campaigns, or blogs. Today, I have the pleasure of being joined by Bob Chapin. He is Senior Vice President with SouthState Bank, and he is coming on for our Legends of Real Estate segment. Bob has seen at least 2 recessions and lots of ebbs and flows of the real estate market during his years of experience in banking. And I'm really interested in his perspective and what he's seen over the last 40 years. So thank you so much for joining me, Bob, and welcome to the show.
Well, Carol, thank you so much, and I appreciate the opportunity. And like some of your other guests, I don't consider myself a legend, but we'll go from there. I do have to put in the plug real quick. I get your Atlanta Real Estate Forum email, first one in my inbox every morning typically, and it's always a good read. So I look forward to that. Great way to start a day.
Thank you so much. We try to be first in. I think our goal is for it to go out at 7, and if we miss it, then something has gone wrong at MailChimp or something has gone wrong with internal communication. So anyway, well, thank you for that. I saw when I was kind of digging through your background that you attended Georgia Southern University. Does that mean you are one of the few Georgia natives?
Yes, I am a Georgia native. I was born at Piedmont Hospital, as were my 4 boys. And I grew up in Doraville, and my lovely wife grew up in Chamblee. So I've been here all my life. And I do have to just say one thing. I was at Georgia Southern when it was college, not university. So
okay,
that kind of tells you how long ago it was.
You say, I'm not sure I remember it being Georgia Southern College. So I don't even know if I know how long ago that was.
Well, I'll put in perspective. I left and Irk Russell came to start football.
Wow. All
So
right.
that was the same year.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Well, what did you study in college and what inspired you to get into banking and finance?
Well, I ended up with a major in finance with an emphasis in banking and real estate, but it really goes back to growing up because, well, let me even go back further because my favorite movie still today, and it was growing up, is It's a Wonderful Life.
Great movie.
So I fell in love with the character George Bailey and just thought that was a great way to do it. I love working with money. I love working with people. My dad was a controller of a company, so I grew up looking at spreadsheets. I was treasurer of every club in high school. So it just was, I thought banking was perfect. And then my senior year of high school, my dad suggested I go meet with the gentleman that we went to church with, Mr. Watkins, and we played golf with. He was a senior manager at Peachtree Bank, an old DeKalb County small bank, and to see what I should major in college to go into banking. My dad had an ultimate plan with that. I didn't know, as our parents typically do. And so I went and met with Mr. Watkins, and he recommended my major, but then I walked out of there with a job for every summer and Christmas while I was in college.
Wow, that's fantastic.
And I built a heck of a foundation for banking because I worked in the mail room. I ran a proof machine. People don't know what a microfiche machine is, but I used that.
I do.
I filed checks. I was a teller. I worked customer service. I worked in collections. I did everything in the support. And so I knew what went on in the back, the back rooms of the bank. So that was a heck of a opportunity for me.
Fantastic opportunity. Well, so what was your first full-time job out of college?
Well, I came on to the training program at Peachtree Bank. So I had a job when I came out of college, and that was in 82 in the midst of a recession, and interest rates were 18, 19%. And I was really blessed to come out with a job. But I got into real estate because our training class was sitting in a room, and the head of real estate walked in and asked for a volunteer. And my parents always told me, when somebody in authority asks for a volunteer, be the first to raise your hand, even if you don't know what it's for. So I did. and their inspector for construction was leaving, and they were going to be hiring a new one, and they need somebody in the interim. So I got trained to be an inspector. First summer out of college, I'm out on the job sites, and you know what it's like being out on those job sites. You
Oh,
just
yeah.
fall in love with the sights and the smells and the sounds, and I did. And so I told the head of real estate, hey, if there's ever an opening, please let me know. And within 2 years, there was an opening, and that's how I got into that. Then that
Wow.
morphed into our bank. Peachtree Bank merged into trust company, and we bought the Bank of Woodstock. And they had a small builder portfolio, and they needed somebody to go up there 2 days a week, and they sent me up there 2 days a week. And just to learn that portfolio and try and manage it and then grow it. And that's where I met a guy named George McClure,
Mm-hmm.
and other great builders in Cherokee County. I bought a colony home that Tom and Bonneau built up in
Yeah.
Oaks. So I moved up there, and that's where I got my feet wet, lending to builders and just the best part of the business.
Wow. Golly, what a cool transition from, college to full-time job to merger and, volunteering, putting your hand up. So many people are scared to do that because they don't know what they're getting into. So
Right.
it's good advice. Wow. Well, how many recessions have you seen, and what insight do you have as a result?
Well, I got it. As I told you, I've got a lot of quotes and I got a lot of different things. So first, I'll tell you that I've been accused of predicting 9 out of the last 4 recessions.
9 out of the last 4.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So needless to say, I'm pretty conservative, and I'm always looking ahead to that. But I've been through 4 official recessions as they've been determined. And my insight is really this, Carol. And I'm going to give you quotes from 3 different people. They're 4 quotes, and I've had them for 4 or 5 decades now, and I think they still hold true. One was my boss, and I think you knew Neil Wedewer. He's retired. He was my boss of 30 plus years. And he always said the housing market never goes to zero. So you think back to 2009, 10, and 11, and there were still more than 5,000 new homes built in Metro Atlanta during the worst market. You just have to be prepared for that and try, take advantage. So that's one quote. The other one of the other people you interviewed, Bill Evans, has always told me that, or he reminds me, the housing market's cyclical. So in the good times, prepare for the bad times.
Right.
Because then when the bad times get here, you can not only survive, but you can take advantage of the opportunities, because there will be some opportunities there. The third quote is from a developer, and I'll remember always where we were standing. And when I asked John Yost, or at that time, Mr. Yost, his son Rick is still out there developing today. But I asked Mr. Yost, I said, how did you survive the recessions of the 60s and the 70s and the early 80s? And exact quote from him was, well, I figure when the worst of my competition is doing well, it's time to pull back. And that is just, I think, valuable advice for any business. And what he meant was, when the market's overheated, it's covering mistakes.
Oh, absolutely.
So he would just take his foot off the gas pedal. And then the fourth quote is back with Neil. I have a bunch of Neelisms, but his was always, don't confuse a good market with genius.
Right.
So it's just, you just got to know where you are.
Yeah. Well, and I think we've seen some of that coming out of the pandemic. You could sell almost anything for a while, and now we've realized, okay, gotta make some adjustments, because our salespeople don't necessarily know how to sell. I don't know, we may be back right now to being able to sell anything we build too, because there's just so little inventory.
Possibly, yeah. No, salespeople became order takers, and we started talking to our builders a couple of years ago, ramping up that sales training. Because in second half of 22, first half of 23, builders had to pull an old play out of their playbook to move inventory and create momentum. And part of that was learning how to sell again, because they had to.
Right. And even learning how to market again, because
Oh,
they didn't have
exactly.
to for a while either. So
Yeah, no, it's
that's kind of
yeah, you have to
interesting.
go back to the basics.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, talk a little bit about how lending has changed over the years.
Mm. Well, when I started in it, the first couple decades, as you know, well, you weren't there early, but you're much younger. The
I'll let you think that.
all right. The builders we banked were all in the Arvida builder program, or the Jim Cowart builder program, or the Wade Johnson builder program, or the Willoughby and Sewell builder program. And, we would try, our goal was to make A&D loans to those guys if we could, and then try and get those individual small builders and get their construction loans. That was the lending. That's what you did. There was very little end user development and building. Well, that went away with the Great Recession.
Yep.
And as you know, I don't know of hardly any builder programs that are out there because the cost of development is equal to the value of the lot now.
Right.
There's no profit there, so there's no incentive to try and go out and develop and do that. So for us, for bankers and construction lending, you've gone from builder programs. If you're banking, the small privately held builders, to now they're having to develop their own lots.
Mm-hmm.
So it's end user, whether it's 6 lots, 20 lots, 80 lots, whatever, they're having to do it. So that's now what we're doing is financing that. So from the type of client, that's how it's changed during my career. And just like in housing, banking continues to get more and more regulated.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, more. You go back to 91, coming out of that recession, when we had FDICIA and FIREA and all these different regulations coming out, and we won some. And then, of course, out of the great financial crisis with, all the different entities and organizations. And we'll see more regulation coming out of here. So it's just the regulation is higher and higher. But Carol, one thing that has not changed in I guess it's 5 decades, if you count by decade, is the relationship part of it.
Right.
I mean, that has not changed. That's one of the best parts of this business.
Yeah. Well, and that's a great segue to my next question. I know that you have been heavily involved in the Greater Atlanta Home Builders Association over the years, as well as Home Builders Association of Georgia. You're a life director with the Greater Atlanta HBA. Talk just a little bit about what those organizations have added to your career.
Going back to when I started that first year in the department, Neil and then his boss, Bill Saravetsa, preached to me that we needed to be at every single home builder association meeting. We needed to be involved. We needed to be active. We needed to be committed, because the quote that I heard them say time and time again is, we need to support the association that supports the industry that puts food on our table.
Yep.
And so that's where we got into it. So when I got into Cherokee County with the Bank of Woodstock, first thing I did is I went to my first meeting. I think it was the old Pinecrest Inn, if I remember. I can't remember, up in Holly Springs. And George McClure and his dad, Raleigh, took me under their wing. And going under their wing meant he immediately put me in charge of something, and really got me involved and busy and active in the association. So we've tried to continue that today. Today, I've got my fellow lender, Elaine Cook. She's getting really involved with the HBA and Homemade. We got Will Burnham, young lender, coming up the ranks with us, that he's getting involved with the Rising Star, whatever that program is.
Yeah. Young professionals. Yeah.
Yes. So we just believe in doing that. And here's really 2 big things for us. I've already told you about the support, of the association and the industry and food on the table, but the networking is so huge for me.
Oh, absolutely.
I want to be able to pick up the phone and call somebody in concrete, or somebody in building materials, or I know all my banking competitors, and they're all really good friends. So, we like to, I don't want to say share information, because you got to be careful with that, but
Right.
we just want to make sure we all know what's going on out there in the market. The other thing, and I don't know if you've probably heard what I tell people when you get involved in the HBA, as with any organization, it's the chicken and the pig story. So when you sit down for breakfast and you look at your plate and you got eggs and you got bacon, well, the chicken was involved in your breakfast. The pig was committed. He gave it everything he had. So when you get involved in an organization that's a big part of your career, you need to be the pig. You need to be committed.
That is a great analogy. Yeah. Yeah. You get out of it what you put into it.
You do.
And if you join and you never go, guess what? You're not going to get anything out of it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. You get out, and sometimes you get out more than you put in, but you don't do it for that reason.
Absolutely. Yeah. So true.
Yeah.
Well, and that's good advice for young people getting involved in the association. Well, so you've got two pieces of advice already. If somebody asks for a volunteer, hold up your hand. Raise your hand,
Right.
Volunteer, and give back, participate. Get involved. What other advice do you have for a young person who's interested in a career in builder finance?
I'm gonna go a little side trip real quick. When you talked about the volunteer raising your hand, I will tell you, my sons are 23 to 32 years old, and they will tell you to this day, because we instilled that in them. And we'd be at a scout meeting and I'd ask for a volunteer and they tell everybody around them, quick, raise your hand. I'm like, why? He said, because sometimes my dad will call on those that didn't raise their hand. Those that volunteer get to go have dessert.
Right.
The ones that didn't volunteer go
Have to
clean.
clean up. Right.
Yeah. So it was like, you volunteer no matter what, you're going to get
Right.
one or the other.
Yeah.
So this is a great question, because I've done a lot of interviews at colleges over the years and still do some. I have been doing some, but one of the questions a potential applicant is asking us is, all right, Bob, what do you like best about your job? And that's always such an easy answer for me. And it's the best part of my job is, and I still do it to this day, is when I'm talking to one of my clients and we're talking about a new development and we meet out at the site and we put on our boots. And in the old days, you took the big set of working drawings. Now you better pick up a stick and you start walking the proposed center line of the streets. You walk the perimeter of the property. You need the stick for all the spider webs. Hold that in front of you. So they're telling me as we're walking that I'm going to cut here, I'm going to fill here. And they give you the best picture of what the lots are going to look like. So then we finance that development. Then we finance the construction loans. And then later you drive through there and you see the kids out playing. You see the people walking their dogs, washing their cars. And you've had a small part in their American dream.
Absolutely.
And it started just walking that raw piece of dirt and just using your imagination of what's going to happen. And that's what I just tell people. If you can buy into that, if that gets your blood moving, you'll like this business.
Right.
If you don't want to do that, you probably ought to find something else to do.
Yeah.
So,
and I think that is one of the most fun things about this whole industry is you get to see something, built. There's something tangible. And then it's, and it's rooted in everyday life. It's where, a family's going to move in and make, all their memories and take all their pictures. And it's something really special to be part of.
It really is. And I find myself at gatherings and I'll always ask people, where do you live? Oh, I live in Johns Creek. And I'll go, really? Where? Oh, off this street. I said, really? What subdivision?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, they tell me the subdivision. I said, yeah, I financed that. It's really cool.
Yep. Yeah, that's really neat. Well, reflecting back on your career, what are you most proud of?
I touched on it earlier. The one thing that hadn't changed in this business, and that's the relationship.
Relationships. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just the relationships I've formed. I mean, I'm going to give you, I told you I was full of bullet points and definitions, but I'll give you my definition I learned for a relationship so many years ago. And it's not looking at each other, but looking in the same direction together.
Oh, I like that.
So that's always been my ongoing philosophy of, it's like, I'm not the banker, you're not the builder. We're both looking at this project and we want it to work and be a win-win. So let's figure out how to make it happen. But the builder clients that I've banked, I'm banking second generation. And actually in one case, third generation.
Wow.
So it's, a number of my clients were at my wedding 35 years ago. I've been at their kids' weddings. It's just everybody's a human being, and
Yep.
you treat them that way.
Yes.
So that's with the clients. I mean, my team at SouthState, I just couldn't ask for a better team. We've been in the same office 15 years. Just the clients I already mentioned, and of course, as you mentioned earlier, the Home Builders Association.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just the people I've met over the years, from my fellow competitors, all the associates, the staff. I mean, it's just everybody there wanting to going back to looking in the same direction.
Looking in the same direction. Yep.
Yeah, we're trying to make this the best industry possible.
Yeah. I love that. Well, you also mentioned you have 2 or 3 kids. Four boys. All right. So your dad obviously kind of coached you in the direction of banking. Do you have any of your kids interested in banking or finance, or they've all gone different ways?
My oldest actually started as a major in finance at college, and then took a class on IT security and cybersecurity.
And off he went.
and he's doing very well. He's a consultant doing that. But no, I've let them, choose what is their passion.
Yeah.
Because again, for another quote, if you love your job, you never work a day
in your life. Yep.
So
it's a good one.
I learned early on that it's, the school they pick, they're the ones that have to go there. The job they pick, they're the ones that have to do the work every day, not me.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, I have to let them do it.
Yeah. So, so any of them in the construction industry at all, or?
No, I've got consulting, cybersecurity. I've got logistics. I've got one that's in sales for dental supply, and then my youngest just graduated from App State, and he's doing. He wants a career eventually in what Austin's doing. So.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay.
Yeah, so it's so yeah, no, none of them in
That's crazy. Yeah. Really interesting. Well, talk a little bit about your current position with SouthState Bank, and what SouthState Bank focuses on.
Okay. As I mentioned, I've been in the same office for 15 years. Of course, before that, I was trust company SunTrust, and our builder clients are just the privately held building companies, full-time operating companies, family held typically. It's, I'll try and make this my last quote. And a number of my clients can give this to you, but we always focus on this. There's a lot of builders that can build a house, fewer that can build a house and make money, and fewer still that can build a house, make money, and run a business. And that's our ideal client and what we're doing. And we're in it for the marathon. We're in it for the long run, not projects, but, I want to be banking the same people. A number of my clients were introduced to us by those developers.
Right.
When they left a public builder, and we were there when they started their company, and have still been able to still be their bank. Our management at SouthState has been really good to support what we're doing. In this tumultuous time right now, they keep telling us, take care of your clients, be out there and do that. I mentioned we got a great sales staff with Elaine and with Will, and our support staff, and of course we got a great mortgage division. We got great treasury management. It's just it's wonderful. We're in 6 states, 240 branches.
Wow.
And if I could show, I'd have to, you could see it on our website, our guiding principles and our core values is just, it's what I've kind of put my career on.
Yeah.
It's lasting relationships. I'm just glancing over at it. Long-term horizon. So that's what we want to be.
Yeah. Fantastic. So, so if there's a smaller builder out there that's looking to grow or looking for capital, they should give you a call.
They can give me a call. I'll be happy to talk to them, see if there's a fit now. Tough part is you ask if you go to BDL, Builder Developer Lender at HBA, and they go around the room. Pretty much every bank right now is saying we're going to take care of our existing clients. New business would be tough.
Right.
I mean, that's just till we see what happens later this year or whatever. That's the standard statement.
Yeah.
So but I am happy to talk to. I've talked to a lot of newer, younger builders, and if I can't do something for them, because we are pretty strict in our standards, I usually know another banker that I can possibly put them with.
And that's where those relationships come into play.
Bingo.
And being friends with your competitors. So
Exactly.
yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
So what haven't I asked you that I should have asked you?
That's always a good question.
Or what else would you like to share?
Well, can I start that with a question for you, and then you can turn it on me?
Absolutely.
You've been in this business for a few years. What does this current market remind you of? What period of time? I didn't give you a heads up on that. I'm sorry.
You didn't give me a heads up on it, and this might be a little bit of a scary answer, but this current market reminds me a little bit of 05, 06, 07, where things were going really well, things were selling well, everybody had everything turned on and, felt positive about the future before we fell off the cliff.
Right.
So, that's a little bit of a negative response. I mean, I personally don't think we're falling off the cliff, but I guess that's not in my control. The Fed, unfortunately, has a little bit too much control of what happens to all of us. And the reality is they keep trying to slow down the machine, and the machine just keeps saying, we don't care, we're going to keep churning.
Right.
So I don't quite know what that's going to mean for us, because they could keep jacking up rates. And at some point, people will slow down on buying. As you say, the market will not go to zero, and it certainly hasn't, but inventory might.
Right. Yeah. Well, we saw that second half of last year.
Yeah.
When mortgage rates hit 7 in June or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, it's a hot market right now. I mean, I guess, turning that question back around, is that the same thing this market reminds you of?
There's some similarities to that, but it actually reminds me a lot more of 1988, 89.
Okay.
And here's the reasons, if I've got time to kind of go through them with you.
Yeah, go through them. Let's hear them.
All right. So in spring of 88, we had a really good housing market. The Fed started raising rates in the spring of 88 to try and cool things down. And we had a record loan production month in May of 88 because our builders and all those builder programs I mentioned had sold their specs and they replaced them. And mortgage rates jumped up, and the spigot just turned off that summer of 88, just like it did in the summer of 22.
Yeah.
So the builders, I mentioned the play out of their old playbook, the builders then adjusted prices, offered incentives, primarily buy downs, moved their inventory, and then were able to then build momentum late 89 and into 90. So our builders during that point in time and through the 91 recession did not lose money. They didn't have severe losses. They all stayed in business. We didn't lose a penny on any lending at that point in time. But take that and move it aside, and then the rest of the world, what you had going on, think to today, we had commercial real estate that was really hitting the wall. Then potentially it's hitting the wall now. You had the savings and loan crisis going there. If you were a builder in partnership with the Texas S&L, you had problems. If you were in one of these builder programs, you were going to be okay and you got through your stuff. So you had, and today we got the banking situation with those other banks So you've got some similarities there. And then we had people moving to Atlanta from California that's when UPS came in the early 90s, Connecticut down. So you had the same in-migration to Southeast. And then you also had in 88, 89, you had an oversupply of multifamily. So it became cheaper to rent versus buy. There's a potential oversupply of multifamily out there right now with the record units under construction. So there's a lot of similarities to that. But what the big difference, and you touched on it, Carol, is there's no inventory right now.
None.
New or resale. I've never known a resale market to be this low and not compete with the new home market.
Right.
Or in the marketing terms, the used home market versus
There's not very many used homes out there right now that are for sale because, and it makes sense. Nobody wants to sell their house, even if they're going to make a ton of money on it. Then what are they going to buy? And at 6-7% interest, unless they're a cash buyer, it's not. It's just not something that's very palatable. So especially if you're used to 3%.
Yeah.
So
I'm keeping my fingers crossed that may be similar for housing this time. We don't know. We'll find out. Because there is the potential out there where we could get suddenly a bunch of supply of used homes.
Yep.
For a variety of reasons, whether that happens or not, I don't know. But our builders, 1991, when the recession hit, they were doing fine.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's interesting. So I didn't start my company till 1999.
Okay.
So
right out of high school.
Yeah, right out of high school. So I worked for a brief time out of college for the Atlanta Botanical Garden and Zoo Atlanta. I was at Zoo Atlanta through the Olympics, 94 through 98, and as their PR director. So I kind of missed, some of what was going on and its impact on the housing industry there because I wasn't quite in the industry yet. So, but that's it's interesting to reflect. They say history repeats itself, but it often repeats itself with different twists. So we'll see what twist we get this time.
Yep. Yes, we will.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today. Before I let you go, let our listeners know how they can get more information on you and SouthState Bank.
Okay. I sent you different links to websites, but I think the best one is the SouthStateBank.com /Atlanta, because that takes you right to our Atlanta division region of our South State website. And then you can explore from there on the website in general. My direct office line, 770-274-4903. And my email is rlchapin@southstatebank.com.
Well, your email box is now going to be full. Now everybody knows how to reach Bob. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to join me today and to be one of our legends of real estate and to share all of your years of knowledge. And just, I think it's just kind of fun to reflect on, a decades-long career and all the people that you mentioned. It was fascinating to hear all of your quotes. I will probably be reusing some of those. I've always used that. You'll never work a day in your life. I think a lot of us use, and there's so much truth in that. If you love what you do, it's not work.
Correct.
So, and it makes a big difference because you do, you're at work the bulk of your day, so you better love it. So.
That's right.
Well, I'm to say this is a wrap of this week's Atlanta Real Estate Forum Radio. I want to thank Bob Chapin for joining me today and sharing his experience and being one of our legends of real estate. On behalf of Denim Marketing, I'm your host, Carol Morgan. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. If you enjoyed today's show, then please go to iTunes and give us a positive rating and review. You can also subscribe for free to our show on iTunes, Stitcher, and Spotify. Many of our episodes are also on YouTube, so you can click that notification bell at the top of the screen on YouTube so that you never miss another episode. If you're interested in being on the show, shoot me an email, carol@denimmarketing.com, and let me know what you'd like to talk about. And with that, again, thank you for listening. I look forward to seeing everyone right here again next week.
Atlanta Real Estate Forum Radio is made possible by Denim Marketing, the publisher of Atlanta Real Estate Forum, Atlanta's favorite source for real estate and home building news. Denim Marketing is a comfortable fit, like your favorite pair of jeans. Denim Marketing tailors marketing strategies to meet your specific needs and niche. Try them on for size. They will work to create a perfect fit for your company's marketing program. Call them at 770-383-3360 or send an email to info@denimmarketing.com. For more information on Atlanta Real Estate Forum Radio or to inquire about being a guest, contact info@atlantarealestateforum.com. Check out the radio show by visiting atlantarealestateforum.com or by listening to the show on your favorite podcast app. And if you enjoyed today's broadcast, we'd sure appreciate a rating and review on iTunes. Thank you again for listening, and we'll see you next time on Atlanta Real Estate Forum Radio.